You are watching TGZ TV.
Hello and welcome back to yet another edition of Industry, where we get to speak to several individuals within entertainment as they give their journeys and their perspective of the industry. From performances at a young age to becoming a budding lawyer, then switching gears up into building the Sky brand. Salma Sky takes us through her journey into the industry. Hi Salma.
Hey, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing? You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you. So do you. I love your
Thank you.
backdrop.
Thank you very much. And I love yours as well. We've got the whole disco thing going on with the listening. Sorry?
I said good to see you in 2022.
It's good to see you as well. Because when was the last time we saw each other? Was it in Kashiandi?
Too long ago.
Right?
Too long. Yeah.
It's been a minute. So obviously you're here on Industry so that we can get to have a conversation with you about your journey within the industry. Obviously you recently came back out, releasing new music, and I love your hashtag, the Queen of the South, the Queen is back, so obviously now that we've come out of COVID, everyone is kind of ready to kind of jump back out, your fans and your followers and your music listeners who love your music are looking forward to more and more of your projects that you're putting out there. But I want to take it way back. Okay, way back when before Salma became Salma Sky, and Salma was trying to figure things out. So tell me, what is it that inspired you to get into the music industry? Is it something that you aspired towards ever since you were a child, or is it something that kind of later on came, later in your life where you thought, actually, I've got a passion for this? What was it like for you? What were your beginnings for music?
I started singing quite young. I remember being in primary school, like probably third grade or so, which is like average 9-10 years old. And I was just always the singing child. Like, I know that I'm the one asked to sing happy birthday at family gatherings or to start the Christmas carols, or like, it was just kind of like always expected of me growing up. And so, I suppose my family recognized it earlier than I did as something like, obviously I was a child. I was none the wiser. I didn't think, oh, one day I'm going to, make this a career. But I think from a very young age, my family recognized it.
Okay.
And encouraged it, which was really great because, sometimes they're like, keep quiet, like go on and on and on. And but no, they were amazing. And so I think later in primary school, I was kind of like, I'm not too shabby,
Right.
And then I was the one like, hey, can I start the national anthem, or can I sing in the choir? And I suppose as my schooling years and I grew older into my teens, I kind of like harnessed wanting to even like consider doing something professionally. And then in my late teens, obviously I recorded some underground projects, like, with other young cats who were trying to come up, and we were recording in like bedrooms and
right.
Until the first commercial record, which was Kapiripi.
Kapiripi, of course, the one with JK, right?
Yes.
The one that you did with JK. Obviously, ever since, honestly, when I think that song was released, it was a big hit all around, everywhere. And that literally catapulted your career. Were you expecting that to happen? Was it something that you're like, whoa, what just happened?
To be fair, no. I felt like I was at the point in my career, like musical passion, where I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna try, working with like underground artists and put my vocals and know what it feels like to be in studio. And then literally like JK was just like, hey, I need a female vocalist, and I ended up being the name that was suggested. And of course, I thought it was a great record. I, up to this day, always say that I have no regrets about any music that I make, because I just will say no if I don't like it.
Right.
And that started very early on in my career, where I'm just like, no, I don't like how it sounds. But Kapipi, for me, number one, was a challenge because both my Nyanja and my Bemba are very, very like scanty. So
Really?
I was like, you know what? I want to sing local. Anything I had ever written or hoped to get into studio to record was all English. And then I have JK, who's like an amazing, established artist, now asking me to be on the record. And I'm like, okay,
Even that.
yeah. So I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna kill it. Let's go in. Let's try it. And I didn't know it would be that big a hit. I mean, of course, it was JK, so he was at the prime of his career. But for me, it was more like, hey, this is like the first commercially, like viable record that I'm putting out. And I just didn't think it would fly the way it flew. But I also believe that it was the beginning of the music video age, that became like the most important thing for you to do when you put out music. And so, strategically, I think it was great.
And so when, obviously, off of the fame off of that song, what happened with you career-wise? Did you start getting many calls? People wanted to collaborate with you? And then in terms of you deciding, okay, what am I doing now in terms of whether working towards an album, putting new music out, trying to figure things out, what steps did you take after that?
I mean, we did Kapiri Piri as a feature record. And then after that, with the reception it got, JK and Rado were like, okay, cool, let's do a solo track for you. And we did Overtime. And so Kapiri Piri and Overtime were kind of like back to back, it just was like a very quick burst of music that was like out there. And for me, everything was like, this is moving really quickly, like, whoa. And of course the platform was great and the stepping stone was great, but I don't know if I was like ready to even start thinking about it being like a full-time thing, because I had just had my son and I was a young mom, and I was just like, how am I going to be able to juggle like a full-on career and still be a young mom and go to law school? And like, it was a lot. So it took me a minute to be like, okay, I'm gonna kind of like dive in, and a couple of years later I decided to do that.
Able to do that. Oh, yeah. Wow. So you've mentioned you were obviously a young mom and you were going to law school. So first I want to touch on you going to law school. That's something that's literally caught me by surprise. I'm aware that you were a mom, okay, but law school. So are you telling me you were studying for a law degree, and do you have your law degree right now?
No, I don't. I dropped out in second year because I was like, this ain't it. I was like, no, I am not gonna. I love to read, but I don't love to read that much. And law is a profession where it's like you have to read every day of your life. And it's work. And I was just like, nah, I like to sit and read my book. I'm currently reading this, and like, I love reading, but I just I don't want to read every day for work. I don't. I'm good with my email.
Every day for work. But how do you think that obviously, even if you did 2 years, right? Those 2 years you definitely managed to accumulate some knowledge, absorb some information, etc. Has it actually helped you in navigating the legalities when it comes to your career?
100%. I mean, like, if I had seen it through, I'd definitely do entertainment law. And my dad is always like, just finish, and I'm like, I know you want me to finish, and he's like, you can be an entertainment lawyer. I'm like, I know, but it's definitely helped a lot. I mean, I think I'm better at judging outcomes now, especially from a legal standpoint, and I read the fine print really well. So it's helped. I mean, and I just think no knowledge. Yeah, there's no knowledge that goes to waste, so it doesn't matter, even if you see something through all the way. I think the experience of even beginning to start something and sap 2 years of law, it was like a lot. So and like tort and contract are like the first things you learn.
But you learn, Contract law is first, yeah.
It was like, yeah, I've taken everything I need. You guys can stay with the rest.
Exactly. No, it's interesting because obviously you mentioned, contract law was one of the first, because I was doing business studies and we had to do business law, and one of the first things they did is contract law. So I got to kind of learn a little bit about that side. And so obviously you did 2 years of that, you dropped out, and then obviously you're trying to juggle being a mom. Okay. How did you find that? Obviously, being a young mom and still having a whole life ahead of you, having to face the stigma of being a young mom, as it is in Zambia. Especially now, people are a little bit more, understanding. But I think years ago, people were a lot less understanding when it came to young moms.
Right.
How did you navigate that? Especially you're pursuing the entertainment industry, and that in itself had its own stigma, right? And so how did you manage navigating that, and any naysayers or anything that was coming your way that was not really helpful?
Yeah, I mean, man, like if I didn't have the spine that I have, just as a person, just I guess my DNA and the personality that I have, I probably wouldn't have been able to roll with the punches as well as I did.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful because I just come from a background of like, people are just like, man, don't sweat the small stuff, So especially when it comes to like judgment, like, societal norms, or like um the need to fit in or be like this cookie cutter type person, I've just never felt the pressure. And I think that that's just based on my background. It's just like we were raised to just be like, hey, it is what it is.
Doesn't matter.
Through the good and the bad, like just stick to who you are and push on, and like I suppose just like make yourself happy before everybody else. I think that was like the primary thing that my parents were like really big on. And yeah, I mean, we come from like a very culturally, religious, racial, diverse family. And like I'm only second generation mixed, so
Oh wow.
my parents kind of like had to create the foundation for us to have somewhat comfortable, diverse life, because not everybody is kind, and of course their generation obviously was worse, and my grandparents was even worse,
Your work, yeah.
because they married out of their race, they married out of their religion, and then of course my parents being products of such marriages, and then experiencing it, and then not kind of like holding on to the negatives, and kind of like we're going to empower our kids to be strong-minded, because they may be watered down even more with their mix, and there's so much more, and we kind of like have to prepare them for the world,
Right.
and
Right.
so
Right.
and that goes the same for like kind of life decisions. I mean, I chose to have my son, which a lot of people don't know. I was 21 and I was like, I want to have a baby because of health reasons. And I really thought my son was going to be the only child I was ever going to have.
Oh really?
But yeah, God has the last say. And now I have 4, and
You got 4 and you still look amazing. Like, girl.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean,
what's the
I
tea?
didn't really care very much.
Like, what's the secret? People are probably thinking, what is the secret? How does she still 4 kids later manage to look amazing?
Thank you. No, I mean, it's just good genetics. Honestly, I haven't been in the gym in a year and a half. I owe it to my parents only, really.
I'm not even one to speak when it comes to the gym.
I flake, man. I'm so sad.
And so it's interesting that you've touched on, your, is it second generation, right? Mixed, right? The industry, when it comes to obviously the entertainment industry, particularly the music industry, and the TV and film industry, all around the world, there is a lot of racism and there's a lot of colorism as well. Okay. When it comes to racism, obviously, especially ever since the Black Lives Matter movement, people are talking a lot more about it in terms of, fair pay, etc., that sort of thing. But something that still is getting swept under the rug, I feel, is colorism. And that's not more to do with the racism, but more to do with within the people of colors community, you know, where people who are lighter complexion or mixed race, you know, tend to be favored over. How has it affected you, or have you noticed anything in terms of like any opportunities that have come your way where you feel, oh, this could have actually been better with someone else, you know, of a dark complexion? Do you feel that you have been given what they call so-called light skin privilege, so to speak?
You know what? I find this topic a little bit tricky only because I feel like, again, I wasn't raised to see color at all. So it's kind of like with the whole colorism thing, and of course, I mean, racism has been there. My parents made it very clear that we were just supposed to see people. And so, you know, when you're kids, you're just like, yeah, but I'm not, you're gonna make me conscious of it if it's like a big deal as a child, because for the most part, children are just like, yeah, that's my friend, you know, and I play with whoever I play with, and it's taught at that age. Of course, when you become an adult, it doesn't matter what type of upbringing you've had. Once you enter society, people make you aware of those challenges and like the differences and just kind of like the climate that you're in at that time. And for me growing up, I'm not going to say like, I mean, I went to a school where everyone was predominantly Black. Right. Okay. Not mixed, because I mean, for different parts of the world, I'm Black too.
Yes, but, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, in how I identify, I don't necessarily identify as Black because I grew up mixed.
Exactly.
And did I grow up in the mixed community per se? No, I actually grew up more in the Black Zambian community than I did in the mixed community, what people would term as the colored community. Other than my family, not so much. But also with that, it's just like, you know, it's kind of like, how do you gauge what's going to influence you, because you do have colored parents and you do have a colored family. But I also walk into family settings where it's like almost everyone is white, because my mom is half white, and I walk into other settings where everyone is Indian because my dad is half Indian. So it was very like, from the beginning, just like, you don't see anything other than people, otherwise it's going to become very confusing for you very quickly. And so in them kind of saying it, they also refrained from putting that kind of pressure to belong, you know, or to have any kind of like association to, oh, I only belong to this group of people. And so with that, things now like, you know, oh, I'm lighter, that's why I'm gonna get the jobs, for me is a very like new concept for me to grasp, because I was very unaware of it my whole life. Other people made me conscious that I was colored, you know, other people made me conscious that I was not Black, or not Black Zambian, you know. And so even today, when people make comments like, oh, you know, it's only because she's colored, or it's only because she's pretty, or it's only, to me, those are things that, so you're now faced with pretty privilege and and light skin privilege. I look in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, you're not bad, you're good looking, but I don't believe that has a direct relation to how I live my everyday life and how I have to be conscious in relating with other people. It's just not who I am. Am I alive to it now? Yes, of course. I do understand that there is the concept, but I really believe that everything that has happened to me has happened to me on merit. If it hasn't, I'm none the wiser. If I was chosen over somebody else, I never at any point thought, okay, you know, it's because I'm better looking than her, or because you know, I'm lighter than her, or I'm, you know, never. And I would like to believe that, because I've also turned down a lot of things that I don't think I'm the right fit for. And of course, again, it's got nothing to do with color, it's got nothing to do with you know, anything of that sort. It's just like, this is just not a fit for my brand. And I've been happy to pass it on to somebody else, and it's done amazing things for their career. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, I just think that you know, the people that do face it, and they face it quite strongly, it's unfortunate because it overshadows how hard people work. You
Yeah,
know, the
it
people
does.
who like really break their backs, and again, you know, in a place where you are kind of like othered because you aren't the typical or stereotypical look of a Zambian, because somehow, you know, there's still predominantly the thought that, you know, for you to be Zambian, you have to be black, you have to look a certain way. You know, of course we understand it from an indigenous standpoint, but
Yeah.
it's like, you know, to me it's just fair game. I don't see myself as somebody who has an upper hand. I believe that my brand and how I position it and what I do with it is directly related to my achievements.
Yeah. And so what is your take in terms of, obviously, you know, because obviously within the Zambian entertainment industry, it is really not something they address that much, whereas in the Western entertainment industry, it is something that's been brought to the forefront quite a lot, where people have actually discussed it and say, look, we've, you know, and some people have come out to say, I have witnessed board members, you know, in these big record labels actually say, she's too black, she's too dark, we can't have her, you know, and the reason why certain artists, you know, don't get record deals. You find that people have come out and mentioned things like, you know, certain darker skinned women would not get a record deal. They might be very, very talented or things like that, you know, and they literally will not be given the record deal when A&R present them, you know, as a potential to be signed, simply because they say, we can't work with that face, you know, we can't work with, you know, her skin tone and things like that. And now that they are planting, you know, a lot of foundations in Africa now, you know, what would you say in terms of, are you hopeful that maybe they won't carry that same Western mentality where they're trying to, you know, marginalize people, especially in a continent that's actually more predominantly, you know, black people, or actually various shades, you know, of black people and mixed race people?
Yeah, no, I think that I feel like level playing field is a difficult one, because you know, it's like that with it's that way with qualifications. It's that way, like the race is obviously like the most sensitive thing people can talk about, but I know people who have been like sidelined just because of their religious beliefs. It's not said, but
it's not said,
you know,
it's true.
There are multiple struggles in every industry, you know, and so, you know, it's like, what will you and won't you do in order for you to have like a seat at the table? And I just think, like, you know, I feel like if you're in the majority, fight for the minority, you know, and if you're in the minority, speak up about it, because I just think it's like, you know, what's the point? People ask me this all the time, and they're like, oh, you know, do you feel that, because the opposite can be said, which is, you know, do you feel that if you were a black Zambian musician, you'd be supported more? You know,
and how do you feel about that?
I mean, and again, you know, it sounds like it's ridiculous, but to be honest, I don't think about it in that way. And I always say this, other people make me have to process that is a possibility. Like, oh, you know, because I'm just so dumb about it. Like, I just really don't. I look at it as like it's work. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, when I'm looking at preference, I'm just like, maybe in my subconscious, I realize that maybe more Black Zambians will relate to another Black person, but it's not in my foreground. Like, I'm not thinking strategically to think, oh, you know, I'm not going to be supported as much because I'm mixed. I never think that. Or, you know, because I don't know, if it's an inferiority thing, then, you know, if you are a girl, is it really about you being pretty, or is it because other people feel threatened by you because you're pretty? It's just, it's a very like mind-boggling thing.
It's quite complex.
But it's something that, you know, like we have discussions like this, and I've had open discussions like this where I'm thinking, well, is it possible? You know, could I have been far ahead than I am now? But I recognize that if this is my truth, all of it, there's nothing I can change about it.
Like, about it.
Right. There's nothing. So this is the journey that I'm meant to pass through. If it's gonna take me 20 years to do what I could have possibly done in 10 years if I was Black, which to me is just like, it's not even, it shouldn't even hold any weight. But if it does for any reason, then there's just not much I can do about it. I am who I am, and I'll wait for those 20 years for the greatness to manifest and be what it is. But
Right.
I don't believe in, I would like to speak for Zambians that I don't think that's like our first thought.
Right.
I generally don't think Zambians are wired that way. And if there are like little preferences that creep in that are associated more to relatability, that's understandable. People look for representation in every society, and I don't physically represent the majority of my society.
Right.
So if it's just based on the art, that's a different discussion. But I can understand why people, they can relate more to representation that looks like them, because that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah. Because I think it's one of those situations where in the industry, for the most part, there is the ongoing thing, which is more psychological, and it's not something that's just happened overnight, and that's something we need to consider. It hasn't happened overnight. It's something that's been ingrained in people's minds for a very long time, not from outright being spoken about, but through imagery, through action. And so because of the media, right, Western media having been the first anyways, which means the imagery that was constantly in our faces was, if it's white, it's right? So as a result, an image of a white person, and then as a result, transitioning into a lighter skinned person or mixed race person, it seemed to be a much better or viable image for a brand to build on than someone who is of a darker complexion, I think it even goes back to when they did, I think you know about the doll test, where kids were being asked, to see which one is the bad doll, which one's the good doll, and they were picking the white doll as the good one. And these are kids who are not even wired that way, but because of the way what's been constantly pushed in front of us on TV, etc., that sort of thing, it automatically generates this thing in the back of people's minds. So me being Zambian myself, I came to understand racism when I came to the UK. Okay, because we are not taught that, we're just taught to just people are people, right? But at the same time, obviously, because of that imagery, it is one of those things you're like, I never realized that someone actually behaves a certain way like this naturally. They don't have to say it, but because of the way society has actually engineered everyone to think, through slavery, through the colonial days, etc. If it's white, it's right. That's kind of been passed on. So what's the next best thing if there's no white person? Oh, the lighter skinned person, So the black person is basically like the last choice. And so even if Zambians, I think we're not wired that way, I think there is a psychological in terms of subconsciousness about it, where you find that, I've noticed like even on social media, they'll make comments on a light-skinned person's picture. They might not be mixed race, just light-skinned, because there are light-skinned people who are lighter than mixed race people.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Black comes in extreme shades, and they'll be literally like, oh, looking at her, she won't even pick up my phone call, kind of like saying she's too pretty because she's light. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the thing that's psychological. So the person, I think, does not even think about it, but it's something that's kind of been wired in them, and that's
I think sorry, and just on that, I feel like a lot of people like have asked me to go blonde. And like I've had this conversation about having lighter hair, and I know that if you look at quite a few black female brands that kind of make the international or global shift within their brand, there's this like, I need to somewhat be blonde or brown, like lighter haired, in order for me to appeal to a certain market, and that market being more wired to, the white consumer, so that maybe your music is more palatable, like your imagery just kind of like sits well within what they consider
the acceptable version of
and I love dark hair. Like I wouldn't change it for nothing. I've played with color.
Have I seen you in any other color?
I love being a brunette. Like I love it. I love having dark hair. But people have asked me, and on very like, commercially,
maybe for specific music video
discussions, like, it's just like, no, don't you think like your brand would be more appealing if you like just kind of like got like almost like a J-Lo brown, and then it would make me look, I don't know, a little bit more exotic. I don't know. Like,
no, no.
you know.
What they're actually trying to say to you without saying it is saying they want you to be passing. Have you watched the movie Passing? They call it passing, almost pass
Oh
for white.
yes, to pass. Exactly.
So that you can
And
pass.
I'm just,
So that's literally what it is, because having darker hair automatically almost indicates like, she might not be white. You know what I mean? They might from far, they're like, is she? And they come close. Oh no, actually, no, she's not. You know what I mean? So it's literally that could put you in a place where she's
I'm like,
Latina.
no, bro.
She's racially ambiguous.
Yeah.
You know, she's racially ambiguous. But you know, coming off the more heavy topic, because I think it was important for us to kind of like have that discussion, because I feel there's a lot of unaware individuals who are getting into the industry, and sometimes when they are marginalized, or when they are put on a, you know, or they are put in the privileged bracket, it does ostracize the ones who are put in the privileged bracket, but also it marginalizes the people who are not put in that bracket, right? You know, so I think it's important that there's awareness for that, so that I think if people are able to have more open conversations about it, getting into the industry, it's not necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to turn down every job, you know, that sort of thing, but being aware to say, oh, why are you picking me for this? You know, because you've got a brand, like you said, you've turned down some brands because it doesn't suit your brand, right? And so they need to be aware. So sometimes you've been approached, look at the brand and what they do, you know, and you'll be able to gauge to say, okay, why are they actually picking me for a brand ambassador? And does that align with my brand? And then you know their real reasons behind it, you know? And I feel like when that happens, people will be able to be in a position to speak up, to say, actually, I don't think this is for me, because I think this will suit more this kind of person, because this is what you're selling. And that doesn't sell to someone who looks like me, so to speak, you know? You know, and that could be a way to kind of like get people to have more confidence in speaking up in those situations, I think. Still to come. You were sliding in the DMs before people were sliding in the DMs.
You sure was. On Messenger, you remember that?
Oh wow! Why are you trying to show our age, yo?
I thought people would keep calling me Salma Dodia, but no, they call me Salma Sky now, and I love it.
Good.
Just having that like business acumen and savvy to be able to say, look, these are the opportunities, harness them, build the brand so that it is something that is seen as viable, you know, in the eyes of different corporates or business, you know.
Your music career, back to like your journey. Having blown up after the JK collabo, and starting to try and work on your own music, and basically Salma turning into Salma Sky, because I think one of your first music videos, because I remember seeing it, because I've got TiVo on my Facebook, and so I was like, oh, okay, I see you, you know, because I'm highly critical, not because I'm trying to be a Simon Cowell, but I feel like when it comes to my people, I just hold my people to such a high standard, because I'm like, no, you're not going to be embarrassing me.
Yeah,
really, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I'm like, I kind of feel like when I look at a Zambian put something out there, I feel like, okay, that's my brother and sister out there. You know what I mean? So you are not going to do anything that's going to embarrass my country, because I'm out here. So I feel like I'm, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You know, so when you put the video, I literally made a comment like, okay, this is amazing. You know, this is really good work. I remember, I think you flew to the States. And you did like a whole beach. You see, I still remember details years ago, but I think I still remember a few details here and there. You I think you were on a beach, and I think there was some kind of like a chalet kind of situation going on, you know, and that was, I think, the first music video outside of the collab that you put out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right. So I can't remember fully the transition, the time frame between the two, but after you had that success with JK's collaboration, how did you now get the machine going to now working towards getting that video out and really pushing the Salma Sky brand?
Yeah, I mean, initially, of course, like I said, Kapipi, and over time we're like, okay, these are records that are kind of like written by a group of people that are amazing at the sound that they are amazing at. But for me, I felt like, okay, I don't know if I want to kind of like cement this sound as my sound. So I needed a lot of introspect. I moved into working with So Good to kind of like sample and try different things, you know. And so with like So Good Entertainment, we did Wonderful World. I did some music with Urban Hype. I did music with Zone Fam at the time. You know, and it was just like, okay, I'm gonna try all these other things because I've never been in studio and I've never made commercial music other than these other two tracks that kind of us in the similar genre. But if I see myself as an artist and I want to have a career in this, I don't know if that's the genre that I kind of like want to stick to. And so before it like sticks, I mean, of course it sticks because I'm still someone up to today. But yeah, just like, do I want to be that diverse artist that like does a little bit of dancehall, does a little bit of R&B, does you know, and then just to like fuel my passion for what I believe is like great music. So Good, I think, was like a really great place that allowed me to just kind of like mess around with the different sounds and all of that. And so in what was like, I think like 2 years, I put out music, you know, just like feature here, feature there, and like try and make music that feels right for me. And I think it was more on a delivery standpoint than whether it's in vernacular or in English. It was more like, this is how I sound when I sing because I'm happy. And that's kind of like the sound I want to go with, which is like more of an R&B style, which really like Z music is not necessarily like that. It's a bit more staccato. Whereas like with R&B, it's obviously very melodious and very chord progression style music. So you want to sing your heart out, you know. And just like playing with different sounds and working with different producers and artists. And so in that time, of course, then, you know, Tiva and I started dating. And he had been in my inbox way before because we've been friends.
He was sliding in the DMs before people were sliding in the DMs.
He sure was. On MS Messenger, you remember that? Oh
wow! Yeah. Why are you trying to show our age, yo?
This man was like sending me beats, and after he heard Kapiri, and over time he was like, Salma, because we were friends way before we started dating, and he was like, you need to move, like you need to do something with this because you're amazing and da da da. It was a bit of chaffing, but you know,
it's chaffing.
I haven't heard that one like, in ages.
Oh my god!
But he was very clearly like, you've started a career. Do you realize you have started a career? And if you haven't realized, I'm here to tell you because I'm your friend, and I'm gonna tell you like, you don't want to miss the boat. It's now.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool. You know, great advice. He's always been like, Tio has always been the most respectful male friend I've ever had. So he deserved to be my husband because he was patient and he focused on kind of advising me on my career after my first 2 records out. And then when we worked on Wonderful World with Grant Mutema, by then Tibo and I had been dating a year. Well, we were already engaged because we got engaged 6 months into our relationship, pretty much.
Wow.
So 8 months. 8 months is when they brought Tumbale. So, which
for me, it's the fact that within 6 months
part of
dating, you're like, yep, he's the one. We're gonna get married. It's done.
But no, I mean, also we just like, it was just the right time. Both of us were. I mean, we've always kind of been attracted to each other, but it was more so just being at the same place, I think.
Yeah.
And so,
I suppose when you know, you know, right?
Yeah. And then, so when Wonderful World was like out and we were promoting it, was, you know, we had been engaged a couple of months, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make my first trip out to come and see you. And he was like, okay, cool. When you're here, we need to make a plan. Like, let's get all our, you know, ish ready. Sorry, but you know, because you should really come out here and you should shoot your video while you're here, so you can take it back home and you can have a release for what is like the first single that you believe sounds the most like you. And I'm glad I did, because I feel like up to now, you know, top requests, Wonderful World is still top 5.
Still top 5. Wow.
Because it made the impact that it was supposed to make, and I really think it like reintroduced me as the artist that I am still, and growing. It's just been like a building block since then, in terms of like the R&B artist that I really aspire to be. So yeah, that's kind of like how. And then ever since then, I mean, and then we got married, and I had to like I ceased being Salma Dodia because I'm one of those women who's just like, I don't hold on to my daddy's name. Like, I'm a Dodia. Everybody knows I'm a Dodia. I've been a Dodia for like over 20 years, and I won't cease being a Dodia, but I fully take on like I'm now Mrs. Somebody. Some people think, oh, that's like, you know, it's not as feminist as people like to have these days, but I'm an old lass and I'm old fashioned like that, and I love being Mrs.
I feel like it has no impact on your personality and your relationship if you choose.
No, but I think also it's just belief systems and culture and you know, no shade to anybody who like would rather keep their maiden name or holds on to it. No, but just like for me and like my belief system and everything, I fully encompass the fact that I am now somebody's wife and I love it. And so we were kind of like okay, so how do we like, it's a perfect opportunity to rebrand, because I was like, Salma Dodia is like not, it's just my name, it's my government name, and that's just what went out. It's not like, you know, I
you hadn't. Did you think about your brand name before? Did you think about I'm going to be Salma this or whatever beforehand?
Never. No. And so I thought, okay, most thing is I'll go out as Salma, but then Salma Dodia became the thing, and I was like, okay, now that it does not sound like an artist brand name,
right?
But, and then Shikapwasha was like, okay, I know that to some extent my father-in-law, Reverend Ronnie Shikapwasha, was somewhat had the idea many years ago of how to like condense the name and just take the 3 letters and create Sky as what could possibly be a brand name for a business or something.
Oh wow.
And I know that there was some kind of thought, I don't know if it's like 20 years ago or something. I don't think it didn't ever materialize into anything, but Tivo mentioned it and I was like, I like it a lot.
So are you telling me Sky is Shikapwashia?
Just kind of like shook, like make it as little as possible.
That was gonna be my next question, and you literally answered it.
Yeah, so it's like, and it's funny because it's almost like they're all right, and like it's all spaced out. So S and then K is like somewhat in the middle, and Y is right at the end.
Y is for the end, yeah.
And then of course, like it had significance, and it was another S word, and we were like, it's good, sounds good, love it. Can't go wrong. Peace and the sky, I'm good because my name means peace. And yeah, Salma Sky was born, and we thought it was an opportunity now to just kind of like, okay, this is a great point in your life to like reappear as Salma Sky, take the brand to where you want to go to. You've already made mention and put out records that sound and feel like who you want to be, and let's run with it. And so yeah, I thought people would keep calling me Salma Dodia, but no, they call me Salma Sky now, and I love it.
That's good. I mean, for me, for the most part, if truth be told, I always just kept the Salma. I just used to just Salma.
Yeah.
Was Salma Hayek? No. Salma from Salma.
Yeah, Salma.
Then I'd have to say, yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah. Okay, so obviously, you know, ever since you released that video and the single, you know, it really did get an amazing reception, you know, and your career just went from strength to strength ever since, you know. You have since performed on so many places. You performed on the Big Brother stage when Big Brother Africa was still around. You've performed with Joe Thomas, and you've opened for Joe Thomas and Kid Sweat, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when they did the Stanbic Music Festival. You recently recently opened for Drew Hill, which I'm so well gel, by the way. You know, and I was like, not Cisco, no, why am I not there? You know what I mean? So you recently opened for that, and you've had many other major stages, you know, that you've performed on, you know, many major opportunities that you've had in between just to keep solidifying your brand, which has also included you being a brand ambassador for certain companies, you know, being an influencer as well, kind of like added to all of that. And it just sounds like an absolutely amazing journey. In addition to that, obviously, you got married, had 3 other children. Okay, 3 other children. And how many albums have you released? Because obviously you've got the one that you just recently released. How many albums have you got so far now?
It's only my sophomore album because my first was actually a compilation album of most of the work that I had done in my first 10 years.
Got it.
And it took me 2 years to record the album Free now. And I really believe like that's as about little time that I will ever take to record a project, because I just feel like it's the love that's needed to create a really great body of work, and I'm really proud of the album now. But I love the celebratory album 10 because 10 has got everything that everybody loves, and they go back to it and they keep listening to it because that's where the memories were made. And it's literally, 10 years of like great music and the reason why I'm here now. So
right. And so for the album Free, the one that's out right now, why did you decide to name it Free?
After 10 years of making music, I just felt like, there's still those like pressures of having to make music that is for your market, but it's not truly identifying with who you are. In making the Free album, my thought was I want to be intentional about portraying myself as true to who I am, both sonically and brand wise. So that goes for like brand image, exactly how I want to sound for my next decade, and the kind of markets that I want to penetrate in my next 10 years, because I've done 10 years and the first 10 years were very much about finding myself, becoming the artist that I want to be, and giving a little bit to be able to establish that, which meant sometimes, making records that are more about market appeal than my soul, and bearing who I truly am and telling my stories. And so Free is about kind of just being liberated from having to do that, and entering whichever market is going to love me and appreciate the fact that I'm making music that is genuinely who I am from beginning to end. Like track 1 to 19, there is not a single song on this album that I feel like, oh, I don't know, cringe. No. I love every single track. I can listen to my own album over and over again. 1, because I'm extremely excited and I'm a hyper human being. But 2, because I genuinely know how much effort and dedication there was to rewriting a verse, because I just feel like I'm selling myself short, or having to recreate the music because I want it to feel like me. The delivery should be me. And so from doing something really quirky like our lead single Free, which people are like, oh my god, is that really you? Because it just sounds different, to songs that actually sound like me, like, people are just like, yeah, that's definitely Salma, we can tell, like, we know her voice. It was like, it was crazy. And then working with whoever I wanted to work with and shooting my shot at whoever I could shoot my shot at. I was just free in creating this album. So I was in people's DMs. I worked with producers from Europe that nobody like really knows about, and they were just like, yep, we're happy to make R&B with you. To just like being, hey Roxa, like Tantule needs to come out. We need to put this record out because it's a hit and I love it. And true to my like Z swagger, and I love it. And so let it just be there, because people, like, they relate to all the different sides of who I am, and I love my diversity. And that's what Free really means to me. Like, that's what the album really means to me. It's just a confession of who I truly am, story and song. Like, it's
uninhibited, basically. Uninhibited.
100%.
No, that is beautiful, actually. That is actually really beautiful. Earlier on, you mentioned that your Nyanja and your Bemba are not so, great. So obviously for me, it's a bit of like, excuse me. I'm like that meme. You know that meme of that child going, what? Like, explain to me, miss, because you be out here singing Kaluwango, and all that stuff. So tell me how you're not Kaluwanging the Kaluwango.
Oh my gosh. No, so what we do is generally I mean, some people have just come to me and been like, Salma, I think your vocals would be the best suited for this song or concept, or you know what I mean? And producers reach out and they're like, hey, I've written everything. You just got to sing it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So beautiful records like Karuango and 10 Years, which is also like, you know, people love 10 Years. It's like one of my most requested. I think 10 Years and Wonderful World are probably like the most requested songs out of the slow stuff, you know, or like, yeah, vibey music. And yeah, sometimes they just come and they're just like, hey, you know, we want you to tell this story, or we want your vocals on this. And songs like those are the ones that have happened in vernacular. When it comes to like me wanting to make music that's in vernacular, it's very rarely happened that way. But we kind of like work from concept, and then I'm like, this is what I'm trying to say, but I want it to be said not in direct translation because it just won't carry the same weight. You know how language is?
Right.
It's like, just say it the best way to mean the same thing. And of course, in a lyrically palatable way, because, you know, music is also funny like that sometimes. Like, it has to be the right string of words for it to roll off the tongue, great for music. So yeah, it's an interesting process because yeah, I can't speak at all.
Yeah, it's for me it's quite fascinating because I'm like, okay.
Bemba is like a no-go. Don't even try and speak to me in Bemba. Nyanja, I
Really?
make attempts. People will understand what I'm saying, and I can get around Lusaka just fine.
Right. I mean, I speak Nyanja fluently.
Yeah.
Well, as fluent as I believe I can. No one, I refuse for anyone to tell me any different. And then my Bemba is on and off. You know, I try here and there because I learned it at a later stage. And so it's kind of like here and there. But those are the two languages that I know how to speak, you know, outside of basic French, but that's it, you know. So no, it's fascinating because honestly, all this time, I was under the belief that you spoke fluent Nyanja, fluent Bemba, because I think there's times you've actually sung in other languages outside of Nyanja and Bemba as well, right? You've done others as well, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. So I was thinking,
I've done
wow.
Tonga, I've done Tenga.
Yes. So I was always thinking, wow,
but
she
I mean,
speaks
you know, it's not always
all these
easy.
languages.
It's not always easy, but I think Bemba is like my most enjoyable vernacular to sing because it just like has a, it's already like a song in it. I don't know, it's just like the different nuances of what Bemba sounds like. It's perfect for music. I love it. Especially for the kind of music I want to make, because like R&B is like, it sounds so good in Bemba's just Bemba. I wish I could speak it, but yeah,
you can still learn. It's never too late. You know, it's never too late. You can still learn. You can still learn. You know, Bemba definitely has like a natural rhythm to it. That's what it is. That's why it's kind of easy to kind of like put into, you know, into vocals, into lyrics, you know, that sort of thing. So what I want to touch on is obviously, you know, you have had quite an amazing run, you know, from obviously not really being sure from the beginning because you hadn't caught on that you had the gift to actually pursue music, you know what I mean? And all the way to saying, okay, I'm actually going to take it on, you know, doing 2 years of law school, dropping that, and still juggling being a mom and all that along the way. What I want to touch on, as amazing as your journey is and inspiring it is, you know, what I want to touch on is what kind of highs and lows have you faced as an individual? Because, you know, we all know the music industry, the entertainment industry is not as cookie cutter as people think it is, you know. The glam and the music, everything that looks so beautiful, you know, that people appreciate and love, it comes with a lot of costs. And we're not just talking about finance. Okay. You know, it can come at the cost of someone's mental health, you know, someone's relationships, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. What has been your journey like on the back end of it, dealing with all the different stages, you know? Have you gone through any stages where you felt like, I can't do this? This is not, I don't know if I can manage to survive this. Have you gone through stages where you felt completely defeated or disheartened? Have you gone through stages where you felt things were not moving fast enough, you know what I mean? Or you've put all the hard work in, but nothing seems to be happening? You know, what has it been like, and what type of effect has it had on you as a person in terms of your personality as well as your mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I take great pride in being someone who's like big on self-care.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do it every Monday, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like my routine. I don't care what is going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I have like the biggest meeting on a Monday morning, I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna do the meeting, but I'm gonna get back to being a bum if that's what my self-care Monday looks like.
Right.
And just like eating snacks and watching my favorite show.
Nice.
And obviously, just depending on the season, it varies to what degree I can kind of like spoil myself. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just like more sleep or like finally getting to clear my closet or whatever brings me joy on that particular
Mm-hmm.
Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that as well, like I'm also very mentally aware. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know when I've had too much or when I'm reaching that
Right.
point where I can't deal with human beings and all the drama. So I'm very quick to like check out of situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like when I work all week and all the different like there are varied things that happen. Like someone could just be like really cruel in the comment section, or like a really big social media posting will be up. It's never that big a deal for me. So from like a mental health standpoint, I just think that it's because I'm quite young, and I think like studying psychosocial counseling for me was important at 19 years old, because I think that on top of like my upbringing is something that like wired me to be a much more stronger personality, at least as an emotional being.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like the highs and lows of my career, when it comes to dealing with mental health, I think like I'm very equipped to do what I'm doing, just because of the
Mm-hmm.
type of personality I am and have like developed myself to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like that's been the biggest plus
Yeah. That's actually really really
on
good
just
that you
allowing
actually
yourself to feel, I guess,
yeah.
and then process it and then not make it like the biggest deal, because we focus on that because we take it for granted most of the time. Yeah.
It's actually a good thing that you have your own, mental health Monday that you actually take. So no matter what comes your way, you're like, no, today I'm actually going to take time out for
Hmm.
me to kind of like, just do me and take care of me, whatever it is I want to do. Because I feel a lot of people don't really take that into account, where they feel the pressures and they think they're obligated to show up everywhere all the time. And that's how you find people who get burnout. And when you get burnout, the industry can give you crazy burnout that can end up leading to depression, and
Yeah.
severe anxiety, which is quite high within the entertainment industry. That's why you find high suicide rates, etc., that sort of thing. So I'm happy that you actually do take the time out, to actually do that. And real quick, obviously, because you are kind of aware, you've got the emotional awareness of going, oh, okay, I'm not doing too great right now, I'm going to take a time out. Apart from that, what other should I say obstacles, or mountains have you had to climb up and down on within the industry that you've thought yourself, how am I going to navigate out of this, or how am I going to get through this in order to get to the next step?
Right. Yeah, I think like, of course, it not being commercially viable all the time,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I've done a lot of work in the last 5 years to be able to depend on my brand and solely on my brand.
Mm-hmm.
My career literally takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
We've had enough business acumen over 5 years as a team and as a brand. I don't see myself as Salma Sky, just the artist. There's the whole brand that can do so much for the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just having that like business acumen and savvy to be able to say, look, these are the opportunities, harness
Mm-hmm.
them, build the brand so that it is something that is seen as viable, in the eyes of different corporates or
Right.
business it's something that we've had to do intentionally, knowing that we cannot be going into personal finances. I mean, of course, Tivo and I are a duo, and we're married, and so people are just like, okay, they've got double finance. But there are other people who are couples, and they are in the industry, and I don't know what their setup is like, but ours is very much like, as Salma and Tivo, like, we have our whole other business, which is in production. And, I put on my sneakers and my jeans and my crew t-shirt, and we go out and we do those projects, and people don't know that. But behind the scenes, I work, a job that is very much on behind the camera, and me making things happen from a production standpoint.
That's amazing.
And that to me is like, Salma Sky ain't getting none of that money. She's gonna have to speak to Salma Sky, the director.
That's so funny. That is so funny. You did not just speak.
She has to find out from Salma Dodia Shikapwasha whether she can get a loan,
right, to put into the Salma Sky project. Right.
Exactly. And and so we were like, no, we're not gonna have any of that, because that Salma Shikapwasha is the one that is bringing in her bit as a wife and as a mother into a home and building a life for our children, and it is part of our generational wealth, but it is also a completely different entity. Salma Sky must be able to generate that kind of income on her own too. So I'm juggling these two people, in a sense, that because I feel like, they need to be able to do it for themselves. Otherwise, it's not really working. Right. So yes, Salma Sky has taken a loan from Salma Shikapwasha. But she's had to pay it back. And so no, I'm grateful that we kind of put our business hats on, and we said, let's make Salma Sky can take care of herself, and she's able to put out the content that's needed as an artist. And so it's been a good run, and I'm grateful that we picked up on it when we saw the times moving and influencing, and the ambassadorship kind of like shift. We saw that bubbling up, and we were like, okay, let's take advantage of this, and let's position ourselves. And fortunately for us, there's been no damage to the brand. We've done everything that we can to make sure that the brand is very close to who I am, which is drama free, like keep it clean and clear cut. You're not thinking like you're wishy-washy about like, oh, is Salma Sky like fancy about certain things, or can we trust her with our product, or and so that has been a blessing, because it has definitely kind of created the relationships with different businesses and corporates that have made a much easier financial walk. But I suppose and then just industry wise, like, man, I love everybody. It hasn't been terrible for me. I've been very, very fortunate. I have had a very blessed career, I must say.
Yeah, you have. You definitely have. And as we wrap up, I just have to ask this question. Obviously, you work closely with your husband. Okay, you're a duo, and he manages your career, right?
He does.
He's your manager, as some would say, a husbander. Okay, he's a husbander. You got a husbander. How have you found? Because this is obviously, I'm sure a lot of curious minds would like to know. How have you found being able to separate the husband to the manager, and him being able to separate the wife, okay, to the artist, and you not, having to cross the line to go, no, you're bringing your emotions because we had a fight or we had an argument or disagreement at home, don't bring it to work. How has that been, you guys navigating that?
I mean, Tivo and I have had situations where literally, like, on set, something has happened on a personal front, and we're just very good about being professionals. I think that and like I said, it's not Salma Sky the artist, because it's not just me and him sitting in an environment and saying, okay, but we have to shoot the video, like let's all just get it together and shoot. No, there are like other people that depend on my brand, and I think we both take that very seriously,
right?
And it's kind of like, if we're in the boardroom, we're in the boardroom. If we're in the bedroom, we're in the bedroom, and let's just deal with it that way. And
has it always been like that?
Nothing too crazy, so, and I think just personality wise, like, Tivo and I have always been like really good friends. And I think the one thing that we have kind of like harnessed over the years, which is the foundation of our relationship, is just that we've always been communicators. And so after learning each other for many, many years, it's like, dude, just say how you feel. You know what I mean? Like, what's happening is blocking the creativity. So it's kind of very easy to overcome. I think it's always kind of been that way. By the time we were married and whatnot, we kind of like we're not perfect, but we have the tools, and we're both very dedicated to being business partners and being lovers and being friends. And so with that kind of commitment, like, it's only up to you guys. If you want to mess it up, you'll mess it up, because you're capable, but you're choosing not to be, to come with your best foot forward in every situation. So I mean, yeah, we have our challenges, but for the most part, and then also because we just love what we do so much, it's just like, I ain't got time for that. Okay. I'm trying to get this frame right perfect, or you look good in this angle. Like, I'm not trying to deal with your emotions, Salma. And I'm just like, dude, I'm trying to perform. Okay. So if you want to get my best angle, we must not be arguing.
Right.
So I think it's just, being mature and being able to like read the room, like, this is just not the hour. So let's just make it comfortable for each other. We make it work. I mean, Tivo's a good guy for the most part. I think we're both good people. So at the end of the day, it's like, man, we'll figure it out. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. And above all, it's just a commitment to one another. I think, it's about growing each other. So, yeah.
That's really good. That's really sweet as well. Very cheesy, but
I know. Such a cheesy
very
couple.
cheesy, but really, really admirable as well. You know what I mean? Honestly, Salma, this has been a really enlightening interview. It's been interesting getting to know, your journey, and you basically having to. Obviously, for me, the biggest shock was the fact that you were at law school. And I was like, wait, girl, would have been a lawyer out here on the side.
I know.
So that's actually quite amazing. And again, it reiterates on the thing of a lot of people thinking, oh, because I want to get into entertainment, I cannot consider education. You know what I mean? Education should always be an option. If anything, it should be something that you should add on top of your CV. It might come in handy. Your law, the time period you spent studying law, even if you didn't finish it, has still come in handy, because you were able to take on that knowledge and utilize it within your current career, and so before we go, obviously we're wrapping up, have you got any words for people out there who are following SALMA SKY, anyone that's aspiring to do what you are doing, and any other couples in the entertainment industry for that matter, who are saying, okay, yeah, we're trying to do this, but they can't quite figure it out? What have you got to say to that?
I mean, I'm just so grateful. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I am just so excited for the new year. I mean, we're already, like, February is almost done, but I feel like we've accomplished so much already, and I'm just excited for Christmas to come again and for us to feel fulfilled. So, just new music out. I'm really excited for everybody to hear the new album. So please go and stream free at all your major streaming platforms. Enjoy the music, give me feedback. I love to hear it, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's cool. And just like, if you want to do what I'm doing, man, you have your own talent. Just be true to who you are. Try as much as possible not to take so much time in trying to figure out who that is. You already know it. I think a lot of it has got to do with denial and wanting to truly be the most authentic version of yourself. So when it comes to making music, I think the most important thing is just go for it. Just go for it. And then, to couples, man, love wins, above all else, love wins. Just love each other. There's nothing better than just being like, hey, you know what? We can just cut the BS and just move on with what really matters. And I think passion for one another, and like wanting to be supportive and appreciate each other's crafts and talents, because not everybody in entertainment is also married to a fellow entertainer, or anyone within the kind of realm or the industry. So it's also just like having a level of understanding the different kinds of support depending on the different industries. And so
Mhm.
yeah, here we are,
Here we are.
we
And so
we love
people
you
are going to be streaming,
guys.
more people hopefully are going to be streaming free. They already are, as it is.
Yeah.
What more should people expect for you for the rest of 2022?
I mean, we have a 19-track album, so there's a lot of promotion going on. We're gonna spend, probably a good 2 years making the most of it. But there is in the background like a lot of different things happening for the brand, not necessarily just music, but also a lot of entrepreneurial kind of like ventures and a lot of
Nice.
collabs. So we're excited to share that with you guys. And I think it's going to be a great run. In the background, I'm already recording my next album, so that's fun. That I guess people are not going to see much of. But yeah, we hope, like, I don't know, 2024, 2025, maybe latest, we'll be dropping another album. But God will lead, and I know that there'll be a lot of music coming out of different collaborations as well. So me featuring or doing EPs with different people from different demographics and parts of the world, and that's just like so exciting for me. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I look forward to seeing more of what you've got in store for us. Your visuals, are by none some of the best visuals that I see come out when it comes to music videos. You always have a different creative flair. So I definitely always look forward to seeing what other visuals you're going to be putting out. I'm a very visual person. I'm a creative. So I love seeing creativity come to life in music videos rather than the typical music video every single time. You know what I mean? That's very cliche. That's very mundane. So you always give us something to look forward to. So I do love that about your brand, So you guys are doing amazing work, and keep going, because at the end of the day, the sky is not the limit.
Not at all.
But Salma, it's been absolutely amazing having you here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And as for myself, for our viewers, I hope you found this interview inspiring. I have definitely found it inspiring. Otherwise, from myself and my special guest, Salma, on Industry, until next week, where we get to speak to yet another guest within the entertainment industry who gives us their journey in the industry. It is take care and goodbye. Bye. Next time on Industry. Oh, wow.
So I had a normal childhood.
You had a very normal childhood.
Yeah.
That's really good though. So you didn't come out as a child star or anything like that. You know what I mean?
I was very blessed to encounter and meet some of the like strongest production minds in the industry pretty early. Like within my first 6 to 12 months of working in Joburg and being in Joburg. Even coming into it, there was a lot of people that didn't think I belonged in the industry.
Right.
There was a lot of people that felt like, one, you're an internet kid. Where do you come from? My friends get so annoyed at how much I play my own stuff because I don't get tired of like my songs.
I love it. I love it.
You are watching TGZ TV.